The Maker of Oils, a Nigerian tale about giving. Written by me, Connie-Vee. Illustrated by Stephen Sash Scott. This book is dedicated to my beautiful daughters, Alera and Aurelia. Once upon a time in a busy marketplace, a young boy named Obi and his little sister Kimmy watched the villagers prepare for the annual visit of Chief Chinedu's dear friend, Mr. Sola. Once a year, Mr. Sola, a very large and wealthy man, would make the long journey to the village to visit Chief Chinedu and enjoy days of lively music, dancing, and dining on the best pepper soup in the region. But more importantly, he'd come to purchase a fine gift to present to his beloved wife on their wedding anniversary. The arrival of Mr. Sola delighted the village artisans, for everyone knew that one purchase from him could potentially bring enough money to make all their dreams come true, provided, of course, their gift was the one special enough to catch the rich man's eye. "Brother," Kimmy called as she continued to watch the village cooks make some of her favorite treats, "do you think we'll be able to attend the big party for Mr. Sola?" Obi placed his arm around his little sister. "No, Kimmy. Chief Chinedu said you must bring only the fanciest gifts for Mr. Sola to choose from." "We can bring Bongo," she declared as she cuddled her worn stuffed toy. "I'll let Mr. Sola play with her while we eat some puff puff and chin chin." She rubbed her little belly and smiled. "They sure smell good." "Sister," Obi said patiently, "the whole village would only laugh at us if we went to the party with that old toy." He took Kimmy's hand and smiled. "Besides, who wants to eat those fancy foods when Mother's stew is waiting for us?" "I do," Kimmy mumbled to herself as her brother led her away from the festive crowd. Meanwhile, Chief Chinedu was making sure the village would be ready for his distinguished guest. Horses were oiled and draped in the most colorful fabrics. The street was swept so clean that not even a tiny twig remained. Hundreds of puff-puff and chin-chin pastries were made. Fluffy butter bread was baked, and the juiciest cuts of meat were prepped for the many fine meals that Mr. Sola would soon be eating. "There's no time to spare. There's no time to spare," commanded Chief Chinedu to the industrious villagers. "Tomorrow is fastly approaching, and I want everything to be absolutely perfect," he instructed. And it was. Obi and Kimmy's home was a short distance from the center of the village. Although their house was small, it was always filled with delightful smells coming from the big stew pot on the fire. But best of all were the sweet fragrances of lemongrass and jojoba that lingered from the days when their father made rare perfumed oils that were sought after by customers from faraway regions. After the big stores opened up, people slowly stopped making the journey to the little village to see their father. Before long, there were no more customers, and their father, the oil maker, was forced to put away his oil press in exchange for the life of a fruit peddler. It was hard work for the entire family, but the love that they shared in their cozy home made the daily task less burdensome and always filled with adventure. "Mother, Father," Kimmy cheered as she ran through the door. "The whole village is preparing for Mr. Sola's party. Can we go too?" she pleaded. Her father knew that there was nothing in their meager home that was fancy enough to sell to Mr. Sola. Had there been, he would certainly go to the party and make a fine profit. "Well, my daughter," Father said amusingly as he picked Kimmy up, "we will not be attending the village party. But that doesn't mean that we can't have our own celebration right now." "Our own celebration?" Kimmy asked, overjoyed. "And what about our special gift? What will we give Mr. Sola?" Mother cheerfully replied while adding spices to her stew. "Let's give Mr. Sola a gift that's not made with hands." The children looked confused. "What kind of gift can we give that is not made with hands?" Kimmy asked. "We will say a special prayer for him," Father exclaimed. "A prayer?" the children echoed curiously. "A prayer is a perfect gift. Your father is very wise," said Mother as she gave a proud wink to her husband. Father then added, "We'll pray that Mr. Solar will find the most perfect gift while on his visit. Then, after we pray, we'll sing and dance and have the loudest party in the entire village." He quickly retrieved some old spoons and an old pot and gave them to the children. Obi and Kimmy were delighted. The family said their special prayer for Mr. Solar. Afterwards, they sang and danced and beat their pots so loudly, their cranky neighbor Mobolade snuck over to see what the family was doing. "What are you people so happy about?" grumbled old Mobolade as he peered through the window. "We just gave Mr. Solar the most perfect gift," Kimmy sang. "A gift?" Mobolade asked curiously. "What kind of gift can poor people like you give to a rich man like Mr. Solar?" Father proudly put his arms around his family. "We said a prayer for Mr. Solar." "A special prayer," Mother chimed in. Obi added matter-of-factly, "And now we're having a celebration." Old Mobolade could hardly contain his laughter. "Everyone," he yelled out to the neighbors, "come and hear about the gift the oil maker gave to Mr. Solar." The neighbors came running as Mobolade called out to them. "How big was it?" they shouted. "Was it a fancy gift? Did it make you rich? Tell us," they cried out together. "Their gift," snickered Mobolade, "was a prayer." The crowd was silent. Then they began laughing and teasing the little family. "A prayer?" they chorused. "A prayer for a rich man," one shouted. "A prayer for a powerful man," added another. "A poor man's prayer," smirked Mobolade as he shook his head. Soon he and the neighbors turned away and returned to their homes to prepare for Mr. Solar's arrival. The following afternoon, the chief's welcoming of Mr. Solar was spectacular. The long banquet table in the garden courtyard was piled high with smoked meats, bowls of soup and fufu, platters of puff-puff and chin-chin, soft butter bread, and more. The chief was beaming with pride as he turned to speak to Mr. Solar. "Are you enjoying the festivities so far, my friend?" Chief Chinedu asked. "Yes," replied Mr. Solar with a smile. "I can see that the entire village has worked very hard, and for that, I am pleased." "He's pleased! He's pleased!" chanted the colorful dancers as they moved to the drummer's beat. "He is pleased." Nevertheless, as the festivities continued throughout the night, the chief sensed that Mr. Solar was not entirely satisfied. He paid little attention to the beautiful horses as they paraded through the gardens. He did not join in the chorus when the singers sang, nor did he strut and sway to the rhythmic beat of the drums. Most surprisingly, Mr. Solar did not eat a third helping of his favorite fufu and hot pepper soup. Chief Chinedu was very puzzled. "My dear friend," asked the chief, "shall I have someone bring you more butter bread, or perhaps more chin-chin or chocolates?" "No, Chief," sighed Mr. Solar. "Maybe you'd like to rest," suggested Chief Chinedu. "Shall I have my helper Folu prepare your bed?" "No, Chief." Chief Chinedu knew that Mr. Solar was a man of few words. However, this was a bit odd. "My friend," the chief beckoned, "it appears that you are not enjoying yourself. Tell me, is something vexing you?" "Why, yes," stated Mr. Solar with concern. "This year, I wanted to surprise my wife with her favorite fragrance, but my search thus far has not been successful." "Oh, not to worry, not to worry," comforted the chief. "Why, we have some of the best perfumes and scented oils from near and far right here in our marketplace. Tonight, my friend, you sleep well. Tomorrow, I will take you to our market, where you will smell scents that are sure to be the fragrance that you seek for your dear wife." Mr. Solar agreed to the journey, but he did not look too assured as Folu led him to his room. In his heart, Mr. Sola knew that only the very rare and pure oil called Aloria would be satisfactory for his wife, and nothing else would do. The next morning, Mobilati sat in his courtyard polishing the small horse that he carved out of marble. He sang as loud as he could, wanting all the neighbors to hear. Tomorrow, tomorrow, the best gift I'll bring, and all will come to know me. Then riches will fall from his hands to mine, and very rich I will be. It's marvelous, Mobilati proclaimed. Come and see my gift for the party. But the neighbors were not impressed because they each felt the very same way about their gift. Look at this, bragged a neighbor as she uncovered a brilliant silver goblet that shone like diamonds. Mr. Sola will certainly buy my gift once he sees all the blisters I got from polishing this thing. Another neighbor flaunted his skillfully carved wooden mask. No. My gift is the best, he called out. No, mine is, cried a painter. Mine, said yet another neighbor. This challenge continued all throughout the day. The oil maker and his family had no time for boasting. They faithfully loaded their cart and went to work another long, busy day in the marketplace, selling their delicious fruit. The next morning at the chief's palace, Mr. Sola ate a fine breakfast and set out on his quest for the special oil. They ventured into the first shop. The aroma was just as Chief Chinadu described, intoxicating. Mr. Sola was very hopeful. I'm in search of a special oil for my wife, he bellowed upon entering. Well, sir, responded the store owner confidently, you have certainly come to the right place. What fragrance would you like? She asked. I'm in need of the oil called Aloria, replied Mr. Sola. The owner gasped nervously. Why, that oil has long disappeared. However, if you will allow me to introduce you to a similar fragrance, I'm positive it would be pleasant enough for your dear wife. She placed a drop of the delicately perfumed oil onto a handkerchief, then waved it under Mr. Sola's nose. This will not do, he said as he released a powerful sneeze that blew with the force of 1,000 winds. It blew the store's owner's wig clean off her head. This simply will not do, Mr. Sola said as he left the store. Chief Chinadu led Mr. Sola to every fragrance store in the village marketplace, only to get the same response, a loud sneeze and an angry, this will not do, this simply will not do. Later that night, Mr. Sola, exhausted and disappointed, ate very little. The chief was truly worried about his friend. In the morning, Chief Chinadu consoled, we will expand our search for this special oil called Aloria. I assure you, it will be found before the big party tomorrow night. Mr. Sola nodded, but he did not look hopeful. The chief once again called for helper Folu, who led Mr. Sola to the cozy guest bedroom, where he immediately fell asleep. The following morning, while Mr. Sola slept, the always dutiful Folu went to the dining hall to address Chief Chinadu and his wife. Sir, Madame, he said humbly, I understand that Mr. Sola has been searching for a rare fragrance. Yes, the chief said impatiently. Continue. Well, sir, said Folu, I am told that there is a maker of oils living at the far end of the village. Intrigued, the chief raised his eyebrow. Tell me more. If I remember correctly, sir, replied the helper Folu, he lives near the home of my elder brother, Mobolade. My brother tells me that this man no longer sells fragrances, but instead is a simple fruit peddler. Folu respectfully continued, perhaps he may still be of some use to you and Mr. Sola. Sir, yes, perhaps. the chief said with an air of expectancy. Once Mr. Sola has had his breakfast, you will take us to this brother of yours, and he will lead us to the maker of oils. Later that same morning, Obi and Kimmy were busy preparing their fruit for the market when they noticed the long car entering the gates of their compound. Father, Mother, Obi called out, come and see the big fancy car. The frantic neighbors had already begun gathering to see who the passengers could be. Old Mobolade recognized Folu, his little brother, right away. Brother! Mobolade shouted as he ran to the big car. You must have fallen on very good fortune, and you have now come to collect your poor, humble brother. Before Folu could respond, the very large Mr. Sola stepped out of the car, along with the chief. Mobolade and the villagers were astonished as they all ran to retrieve their goods. By my gift, they each proclaimed. No, by mine, sir. The crowd pushed and shoved their way towards Mr. Sola, pleading for the rich man's attention. Silence! Mr. Sola commanded with a voice that boomed like endless thunder. And the crowd became silent. Then Mr. Sola looked across the crowd, then spoke directly to Mobolade. I am looking for the maker of oils. Whispers swept throughout the crowd. Did he say that he's looking for the oil maker? The poor oil maker? Someone called out. Mobolade scratched his head. You mean the praying oil maker? Yes, Mr. Sola demanded. Take me to this man at once. Chief Chinadu, Folu the helper, and all the villagers paraded behind Mr. Sola as a very confused Mobolade led him to the oil maker's modest little home. Father, Kimmy said, old Mobolade, the chief, and the big man are coming our way. So I see, said Father, as he and Mother joined their children at the door. If I'm not mistaken, Mother said, it looks as if we're about to get a visit from the chief and Mr. Sola. Well, what could they possibly want with us? Wondered Father. He took his wife's hand and then led his family towards the crowd. Are you the maker of oils? Mr. Sola demanded as he towered over the little family. Father said nervously, I sell fruit in the market, but I used to make oils, yes. Splendid! Exclaimed Mr. Sola. I have been in search of a very rare and pure oil called Aloria. I am prepared to reward you handsomely if you could direct me to anyone who might sell this oil. The oil maker nodded and darted back to his storeroom without a word. Moments later, he returned with a tiny bottle. He dusted it off and presented it. Sir, I am the only maker of this unique fragrance. This is my last bottle of the purest oil called Aloria. Mr. Sola was overjoyed. Name your price, my friend. Name your price, and I will double it. No. I will triple it if you would sell this last precious bottle to me. All eyes rested upon the maker of oils and his dainty little bottle. No one made a sound as Mr. Sola waited for the oil maker's response. The oil maker was not sure why he felt compelled to do what he was about to do. He only knew in his heart that it had to be done. Sir, the oil maker said softly as he looked up at Mr. Sola, I cannot sell you this bottle. The crowd gasped in disbelief. Chief Chinadu's face burned with embarrassment as Mr. Sola took a step back in shock. But before Chief Chinadu could say a word, the oil maker continued. I cannot sell it to you because it would be my family's honor to give you this precious oil as a gift. Mr. Sola's eyes lit up as his enormous hands wrapped around the delicate little bottle. He gently removed the tiny top and released the fragrance that danced around him like a cool breeze on a summer's day. He breathed in the sweet aroma, and for once, Mr. Sola did not sneeze. He stared kindly into the oil maker's eyes. Now this will do. He glanced over at the oil maker's family and smiled as he gave Kimmy and Obi a gentle tap on the top of their heads. This most certainly will do. Mr. Sola, Folu, the dutiful helper, and a very happy Chief Chinedu returned to the long fancy car. They all gave a final wave, and then Folu slowly drove them away from the far end of the village. As soon as the big car turned out of sight, Mo Baladi and the other neighbors wasted no time with their mockery of the oil maker and his family. "I cannot believe this! You could have been rich!" cried Mo Baladi in disbelief. "You could have been famous!" said another neighbor. Mo Baladi continued, "That oil could have made all of your dreams come true, and yet you gave it away? You're such a poor, foolish man." But the oil maker and his little family were so overjoyed that Mr. Sola accepted their gift that they paid no attention to Mo Baladi and the taunting crowd. "Our prayers were answered. Mr. Sola found the most perfect gift," they sang over and over and over as they clapped and danced on their way to the marketplace. "Nonsense!" snapped old Mo Baladi to the family as they passed. "Only I have the true perfect gift for Mr. Sola." Mo Baladi held his horse high in the air, and tonight at the party, Mr. Sola will certainly buy my horse. Then I'll be rich. To everyone's surprise, Mr. Sola was so excited about the rare oil called Aloria that he quickly ate a small lunch that consisted of 3 helpings of hot pepper soup, butter bread, puff puff, chin chin, and chocolates. Then he returned home to his beloved wife, counseling the village party. Many days had passed and things returned to normal in the village. Old Mo Baladi and the neighbors enjoyed reliving that unusual day when the foolish praying oil maker gave away something rare and precious as a gift and got nothing in return. The villagers continued to argue that had there have been a party, their gift was sure to have been favored over all the others. Obi and Kimmy and their father and mother continued their routine of selling fruits at the marketplace, then returning home to enjoy a hot stew and an occasional night of singing and dancing in their cozy home. One particular warm morning, just as they were preparing to leave for the marketplace, they were startled by an unexpected knock at the door. "Yes," said father as he opened the door to see 2 regal strangers standing before him. "How may I help you?" The eager woman said, "Mr. Sola has spread the word both near and far that you are the maker of a fine rare oil." "Why, yes," father said, beaming, "I am he." "Fabulous," she cheered. "I've come to purchase some of your lovely fragrances for all of my boutiques throughout the countryside, no matter the price." "I'm honored," the oil maker replied happily. "I can certainly help you." Before the oil maker could retrieve his fragrances, there came another hurried knock at the door. "I too would like to purchase some of your oils to sell in my city shops," exclaimed another hopeful customer. Then there came another knock, and another, and another. Soon the little family was surrounded by strangers, all responding to Mr. Sola's announcement that there was no finer fragrances than those made by the maker of oils. "Father," Kimmy laughed, "did Mr. Sola give us a gift not made with hands too?" "Indeed he did," said father, holding his happy family close to him. Indeed he did. And so it went. Fame of the family's rare oil business continued to spread from region to region, making them the richest family in the entire village and beyond. And once a year, they generously invited all the neighbors, including Mo Baladi, to partake in a grand celebration that had powerful drummers, lively dancers, fancy horses, and of course, lots of Kimmy's favorites, Puff Puff, chin chin, and hot butter bread. The end. My fluffy friends and I hope you enjoyed this story time and all the stories that were presented to you during this time. We want you to stay connected and stay encouraged. What's that, Ruth? Absolutely, stay safe. Until we meet again, bye-bye.